They ordered him to surrender, to get down on his knees and raise his hands.
The 48-day manhunt for Eric Frein ended last night. The accused cop killer was caught in an abandoned airport hangar in Pennsylvania. I'm Ty Hernandez in New York. Frein was just brought into a courtroom in Milford, Pennsylvania, taken out of a police car and walked into the courthouse with an army of law enforcement officers surrounding him. But before we go to that, let's check in with ABC's Marcy Gonzalez, who is in Milford with the latest. Marcy?
Hi, Ty. That's right. He was just brought into this courthouse. The arraignment set to begin any moment now. This after spending much of the night being questioned about what police describe as a well-planned ambush and escape. An accused killer right back where the search for him began. Nearly 7 weeks after police say Eric Frein shot and killed a Pennsylvania state trooper and injured another at this police barracks in the Pocono Mountains, Frein was brought back, wearing the handcuffs that belonged to the officer he's accused of killing. Investigators calling it one sign of the justice they're trying to bring for Corporal Brian Dixon's family.
We have been in contact with Trooper Douglas and his family, and as well as Corporal Dixon's family, and relief and gratitude were their reactions.
Frein was captured around 6 yesterday evening by U.S. Marshals canvassing the area around an abandoned airport. Police say he was caught off guard, and though he had weapons nearby, Frein surrendered peacefully.
He did not just give up because he was tired. He gave up because he was caught.
The end to a long and tense search. The skilled survivalist and marksman hiding in the woods for 48 days. Fears he could strike again, forcing schools to close and causing lots of sleepless nights.
I actually felt like I was in a war zone a couple of weeks ago. It actually is a good thing now that he is caught and now can finally rest again.
And Frein faces a list of charges, including capital murder. The district attorney here says he will pursue the death penalty. Ty?
Marcy, there's obviously a lot of interest in this case and the very long manhunt. Can you set the scene for us there in Milford where you are?
Well, a lot of relief. You heard that gentleman saying that, people really feel like they can kind of get their lives back, go back to normal. Halloween festivities were canceled for today. There wasn't going to be any trick-or-treating in a lot of these communities. But now that Frein has been captured, Halloween is back on.
All right. Well, good news for the young and old there. Marcy Gonzalez in Milford, Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us. Let's head now to Aaron Koturski with more on Frein and his capture and his court appearance. Let's start with his appearance physically. He seems to be injured. Do we know what kind of condition he is after 48 days on the run?
From all appearances, other than the scratches on his head and the cut on his nose, he appears to be okay. I mean, he's caught, he's fairly clean shaven, so clearly he was comfortable enough in his surroundings to stop and shave at least a couple of times during his 48 days on the run. And we were told that this all took so long because he is a survivalist and he did know the terrain where he was so well. State police kept calling this vast terrain a big search area. In the end, he never strayed very far from the scene of the crime. He was caught about 30 miles away in that abandoned airport hangar. But Eric Frein seems to have been comfortable enough with his surroundings to shave, to go about his business, whatever it was that he was doing in this time period. One of the things he wasn't doing, though, was taking pot shots at police, and that was a big fear, Ty. They feared ultimately this was going to come down to a violent confrontation. They were prepared for it. I think that's why you saw, as he was brought into court under heavy guard. But in the end, he surrendered quietly. Not a shot was fired, even though there were guns and knives found in the airport hangar.
Do we know if he said anything or explained his actions? I know it certainly surprised police that he didn't go down with a fight because he in fact targeted law enforcement, which is why he's being held right now.
That's right. Corporal Brian Dixon was shot and killed. Another trooper was shot and wounded back on September 12th. And they found a letter from Eric Frein that indicated a little bit more about how he did it, a little bit of the why, but why specifically he had this hatred for law enforcement. We don't know whether there's something in his background or not. He does have a little bit of a criminal record, not much, but a little bit in Pennsylvania and in upstate New York. But Frein was able to elude police by going from hiding place to hiding place. They always thought that he did have it out for law enforcement, that he had this hatred for law enforcement, but they never were able to fully explain why that is. Maybe we'll get at that as the court case unfolds. For now, he's charged with first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer. Those are capital offenses, as you heard from Marcy Gonzalez. The district attorney will seek the death penalty, we're told, but he also faces a host of other crimes, including weapons discharge. I mean, the list goes on, and as his court case winds through Pike County Criminal Court, we may get a sense of that motive. Why did he target specifically Corporal Dixon, or was that just a target of opportunity?
What is expected to happen in court today?
This is just a preliminary appearance, a preliminary arraignment. The charges will be read. We don't know whether he'll enter a plea or not, whether that's required. I'm not sure. And it should be very quick. And afterwards, we should get a statement from District Attorney Raymond Tonkin. He talked last night, though, Ty, to say that the charges were capital offenses and that he would pursue the death penalty. He's not going to be able to say very much because we're at such the early outset of the trial. But this begins a prosecution that is going to be watched by the entire community, not only to get more motive, perhaps, but also to see justice. And you heard Governor Tom Corbett last night talk about the need for justice for that community, not only for the family of Corporal Dixon, but also for that entire community that was paralyzed the last 48 days. Marcy mentioned Halloween being canceled, but schools were shut. People were forced into their homes. And that's why I think we talked to one guy who said his whole bar broke into applause when the news came on that Eric Frein was caught.
Have we heard anything from the family of the state trooper Frein allegedly killed?
Haven't heard anything from Corporal Dixon's family, although undoubtedly they're feeling relieved. And I think that has to be the prevailing feeling among all of Pennsylvania law enforcement. From the outset, the state police told us that he had it out for law enforcement. He may have been searching specifically for people in uniform. There were rumors going around about affairs or different love interests, and none of that appeared to play out. Ultimately, it seems Eric Frein was someone who wanted to target cops, and he did in the case of Corporal Dixon. He did so fatally. In the case of the other trooper, he was shot and wounded, and the fear had been that while he was in hiding and while all of these law enforcement officers were searching, and there were hundreds of them these last 7 weeks, that he would just start taking shots at them. And ultimately, when the U.S. Marshals found him, it seems as if he was surprised that they did. He was in an airport hangar, near that airport hangar. The marshals had divided up the area into a grid pattern, as they commonly do, to search for suspects. And when they came upon him, they simply said, "Identify yourself, surrender," and he did.
Do we know, in terms of his preliminary appearance in court today, whether he's got a state-appointed attorney? Has he hired an attorney? Do we know that at this point?
I can't imagine that he's hired an attorney. I think you'll see a court-appointed attorney because the case is so fresh and because he hasn't really been in contact with anybody that we know of for the last 7 weeks. So whether he's been able to hire an attorney doesn't seem likely. We're not sure what kind of resources he would have anyway. So you'll see the prosecutors from Pike County, very likely a court-appointed attorney. That may change later, but his family did not appear to be helping him any during the last 7 weeks that we know of. Maybe that, again, we'll find out changes. But Eric Frein seemed to be on his own.
What about cameras in the courtroom? Do we have any expectation of that going forward?
No, never in Pennsylvania. So you won't see Eric Frein in his court appearance, but you did see him walk into court in the orange jail jumpsuit, handcuffed. Initially, he was cuffed with Corporal Dixon's handcuffs. That's a law enforcement tradition. Cop killers, when they're caught, if they're taken alive, as a symbolic gesture, are handcuffed in many jurisdictions with the cuffs of the deceased law enforcement officer. And then he was brought in, paraded for the cameras, and I think that was done very much on purpose. The perp walk was something that I think the Pennsylvania State Police wanted to do to show people that he was indeed caught, that there was nothing left to fear.
In terms of news conferences, I mean, we've had very regular updates from law enforcement about his search. Are we expecting anything later today about his appearance in court?
No, other than his appearance, that should be it. He'll go back to the Pike County Correctional Facility where he spent the night, and then it's just a matter of his case winding through the courts. The prosecutors had drawn up documents, so they assumed this day was coming, so they're undoubtedly prepared. They've been collecting evidence along the way. They may have to arrange for witnesses. Remember, there were a lot of sightings of Eric Frein along the search route. And it seemed like there was a neighbor near the abandoned airport hangar who said that she saw him crossing the road. And that may have tipped off the marshals where to search. So there may be some of those eyewitnesses to come in and help positively identify him at trial. But the evidence seems to be overwhelming. And once they have the bullets, the ballistics, all that together, you'll see all of that come out at trial, Ty.
All right, ABC's Aaron Katursky, thank you so much for joining us. And you can keep up with this story in real time by downloading the ABC News app and starring this story for exclusive updates on the go. For now, I'm Ty Hernandez in New York.